Welcome to another episode of Tres Leches Radio. It's yours truly, Radimus, aka Rad Child, for the duration of this episode. Represent 1/3 of the trio. Gentlemen, let them know what it is.
Yo, this is B Gotti getting my murder on.
Jesus.
Rings rule, you know what I mean? Zoda God, rings batting.
There we go. It's murder, guys. Brandon, how about you do the honors of introducing our other murderous act in today's guest?
Yeah, it is an honor. It's an honor and a pleasure, man, to introduce this guy here, teenage childhood friend, man, hip hop producer, funny, one of the top. He's in my top 5 funniest dudes.
Only 5, huh?
Yeah.
Hey,
just 5.
You cracked the top 5.
Music enthusiast, all around good dude. My man Kelly, aka Kashanti tonight.
Yo.
Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining Tres Leches Radio.
I'm happy to be here.
I think the rain is calling murder. I don't know. All right, B-Stacks, I don't know if you want to do the honors.
Yeah. Let's do it. So, finally, episode 16, man. I've been wanting to talk about this man since episode 0.
Yo, since the inception, man. Since before we had a logo, which is being promoted behind us today.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Yes.
In the back.
I noticed Lorenzo doesn't have a logo, though. Is he not on the team? Did he get kicked off? What's going on?
Listen, I'm still doing contract negotiations.
That's understood.
He's the Joe Budden and Slaughterhouse when they wasn't on the Eminem album. Like,
Yo.
Go ahead, B-Stacks.
Yeah. So this next artist collective that we're about to spotlight for the next 45 to an hour, was very prominent in the late 90s going into the 2000s. So in rap, there's about 4 sectors, which includes commercial, underground, street, and pretty much alternative. And I would say 2 out of the 4, this record label, collective, artist definitely reigns supreme, which I would say would be the street and commercial side. So without further ado, this is the dial in for murder. We're gonna focus in on Murda I-N-C and Ja Rule as
yes.
Word.
Yeah, man. Like he said, we've had this idea on Stash. Not even we. This was Brandon's. This was gonna be a volume 2, volume 3. Like we were gonna do like a whole there's a lot to cover in today. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot. So
it really is. We had a lot of chalkboard talk. How we're gonna start this off is you can't say Murda I-N-C without saying Herb Guy. He is legit the cell that Nucleus birthed everything else around it. So briefly, addressing Herb's journey, so he begins in 94, 95. He does work with DMX, a young Jay-Z. He finally kind of gets a spark with Jay-Z's first single, and also Mike Geronimo's album entitled The Natural in 1995, with singles like It's Time to Build, Check the Method, and Ja Rule was actually on those releases as well. Then you have the Cash Money Click. They did that side deal with Priority, and then later on TBT, and then Murda I-N-C. So real quick, as we just want to focus on Herb real fast, what was you guys' first impressions of like when you first knew about him, or even now, in your current state, looking back on like his early beginnings?
Yo, his journey, and you mentioned, right, like the success with the Jay-Z's lead off like single. He was the epitome, and he is the epitome of a hustler, because he told the story about how they waited on Funk Flex to like get to, I guess I don't know if it was the Hot 97 building or wherever it was. They knew somewhere he was going. They waited for him and presented the single to him. Like, you know what I'm saying? When they were trying to get the Cash Money Click video on the box. I don't know if you guys caught that story. And for the crowd that's younger than us, you guys remember the box, right? The music television, right?
It was the greatest.
Yeah. Yo, he said that what they would do is, at the time, Mary J, the Method Man and Mary J, All I Need was popping. That's all everybody was ordering on the box. So what he would do is he would go to the record label, and every time that video came on, he would call the box and order the Cash Money Click, Get the Fortune, single, so that it would air right after that. So just big picture wise, he's been hustling since the beginning. Like some people are just born knowing what they need to be doing, and he clearly seems to know. He knew this is what I need to be doing, and look at the talent that he found. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you gotta think about it.
Okay.
Hold on, we gonna call it talent.
Talent,
That's
yeah.
what we gonna call it. Okay, no problem.
Man. But I always look at it like, and I think I noticed more so when DMX came out, the producing aspect of Gotti. I mean, I knew about him, but not, not all the full range during that time frame. But the one thing that stuck out to me was, and I think it goes back to, producer versus beat maker. Like as much as people talk about X and Swizz Beats, people have to remember the majority of It Is Dark and Hell Is Hot was produced by mostly by Dane Grease and Irv Gotti. Which I'd always say X was at his best with those two more so than Swizz ever. And that's how he was able to match that aggression, that energy with X, and how to do that the same thing with Ja, once his career kind of popped off. So you always saw Irv had his hands in a couple different pockets because he also was a Def Jam executive, which kind of led to Ja getting his solo deal initially with Def Jam and helping Irv get the Murda Inc. label started. So to me, he always had that kind of ear and that street level talent, and probably because, running with D&Y too with Rough Riders, because he was in their circle as well. So he was definitely very much in the, the flow of things during that time frame.
K. Shanti, what are your feelings on Irv Gotti and his talent?
Listen, I think Irv Gotti is a talented guy. I think the production on Ja Rule's albums isn't that strong. I think the production on I didn't even know that he worked on DMX's album. I think DMX's production on DMX's album is way stronger than any of Ja Rule's records. So I'm surprised to hear. I mean, Irv Gotti did a lot. Jay-Z, I think he did something on Nas's first album too. So I'm not really sure why Ja Rule has that specific sound, that 2000s, like super 2000s sound, that has aged so poorly. So I'm not really sure like why. I don't know why it sounds like that when this guy has done all this other dope stuff and this sounds like, I don't know. I'm very confused with Ja Rule's whole career. His whole sound it just didn't age well, whereas everything else did.
Right. Oh, okay.
Well, just circling back to Irv real quick. Zoe pointed out that like beat makers and producers, he's definitely like both. Right. And he doesn't really get the credit as much as a beat maker. I think a lot of his best stuff is like the stripped down kind of like, boom bap,
right?
Hip hop, and I think
it's hard stuff,
and I think the commercial stuff that Kel is alluding to, I think that was outsourced material, like things that he might have started with, and then other producers maybe got their hands on and did other things with it.
Yeah, they had like an in-house like production crew. It was like Seven, Aurelis. Oh man, they shot a
was
bunch
it some
of names.
Ty something?
Ty Fight?
No, I don't think Ty. It was another Ty. I had to look at the credits, but I know there was a lot of co-production stuff, especially once you got to the second, third albums.
Yeah, he had a team. I think it's kind of like Riz. After a while, it wasn't just Riz on those war albums. There was delegations, because it's just a lot of music to put out.
When any producer gets like huge, like they're not making all the beats. They got like a team of young boys or whoever that they outsource. It's like a painters, like Michelangelo or whoever. Didn't do all the paintings. They got like a school that comes up underneath them, and then they'll just tweak something here and there. So I can understand that.
Yeah, and I think you know what, and speaking like with production and stuff, I will say I think Irv, and maybe we'll elaborate this more later. I think he belongs like, and I know K. Shanti's gonna disagree with me. I think he belongs in the conversation of when you talk about like success, not just like his Murda Inc., just everything, his contributions. When you bring up Diddy, when you bring up Dre, I think Irv Gotti belongs in that conversation.
I don't didisagree with that at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, because like Ashanti, Lord was hot for a second. Ja Rule was a megastar. Like he was huge.
Yeah.
It's just none of it. If you put any Murda Inc. songs on a playlist today, and you like hanging out with people, everybody's gonna look at you like you're crazy. It just didn't age well. It's on no playlist at all. It's like music from the 80s. It just doesn't age well.
Do you think perception has also ruined like the enjoyment of their music? Like, and the only reason I say that is because I feel like their legacy gets discussed in the social media era, in which, you know, and we'll elaborate more on this later, where, you know, they tend to get roasted, especially like John stuff, because of 50 Cent. So I feel like the perception gets altered.
Like I was living it up. I was banging that today. Like,
yo, I still like it. Yo, I still like it. I like How Many Wanna Die.
Yeah. Well, is it on your playlist? Is it in your rotation? Pull up your Spotify right now.
It's not.
Show it to the camera. Okay. This is what I'm saying. But
I got a Ja Rule playlist.
Reasonable Doubt should be on there.
I got a Ja Rule playlist. I got well, in my defense, any artist I listen to, whether I like them or hate them, I make a playlist to see how much of it I like. So, but dude, even when they did that first Murderers compilation, right? That was like Irv Gotti. That's like when Swiss did Rough Riders, Irv Gotti did that Murderers. And I don't know how y'all felt about it. I like that project. I don't really like the second one, but the first one I think goes hard as hell.
All right, let me ask you a question. Maybe I'm getting ahead. But like, all right, all the crews, like, all right, you got Rockefeller, you got Rough Rider, you got Murder Inc., you got Dipset, you got whoever. Where does Murder Inc. fall? It has to be by the bottom.
That's a good question. I mean, Ja was the only successful rapper, I think.
Yeah.
Well, success-wise, I think they're at the top.
Oh yeah, like numbers. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did numbers. They did 35 million. Yeah.
We're gonna get there. So all right, we already established Irv as a hustler, you know, beat maker, producer, and then
executive extraordinaire.
Always. So now he finally has Murder Inc. He has a template, he has a company. Ja Rule is moving and shaking on the underground features. He comes out with Benny Betty Vici in 1999. Holla Holla is the only single. And the album
was the only single on the album?
It was the only single on the album.
They did a video for another, you know, it was the only hit single. You know, he recorded that song last for the album. That was the last song because they didn't have that album's kind of long. But yeah, I remember when I read it, they said Holla Holla, and it wound up being the hit single for that album. It was the last song recorded, and that's what. K Shanti, I actually have that CD single in the back somewhere over here.
Is that right?
That CD single.
Holla Holla was a banger when it came out.
Oh,
banger. What about that Memphis Bleak joint? That was a single too, right?
Murder for Life.
I think it was like a street single. Yeah, Murder for Life.
They gave that one to and that one came out under Memphis Bleak. Like it was the song is on both their albums, but they gave it to Memphis Bleak, and I think that the video version's a little different. But yeah, Benny Betty Vici, I like that album. I think it's a little on the long side, but yeah, Holla Holla, that was his like breaking single.
Yeah.
So he becomes a budding star, right? You know, from the first album. What are your guys' impressions at this point? Because now, we're in high school. You know, we know exactly what's going on with hip hop, underground, commercial, street stuff. What were you guys' first impressions of that first album in Ja Rule as an entity?
Listen, that album has always been real sentimental to me. Yeah, I know Ray obviously wouldn't know, but Kelly and B Gotti and K Shanti, y'all remember Lai?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. So back during my burning piracy days, quote unquote.
It's no more. It's no more government.
No
behind
more. I live a clean life. I don't even steal cable anymore.
There you go. He's masterminding.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why I was still burning a lot of CDs, and we were in the same homeroom. So I bought the the CD initially from the wall, and I remember he came up to me he's like, yo, is that the Benny Betty Vici? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh brother, can you burn me one? I love Ja Rule, So I burned it, and then that's how our friendship started because we were in the same classes, we were just out of homeroom, but that's how we actually built our friendship over him seeing me with the Ja Rule CD. So that album for me, and it was funny because when I initially first heard Ja Rule, I heard some of the mixtape stuff, and then obviously, off the Rush Hour soundtrack. But I remember my first impression of Ja Rule when I really started indulging. I'm like, yo, who's this great value version of DMX? Initially, because when I initially heard, I'm like, they had enough money to get X. So they got Ja, you know what I mean? I didn't really put two to two together. So I started going back, into some of his earlier stuff. But hearing the album, especially listening to the other day, I mean, it brought back memories from high school. And he had, as you mentioned, you only had the one single, Holla Holla, but Begotten Son, that always really resonated with me personally. Just given my situation and everything. And it definitely put me in my feelings, so to speak. I mean, it was a little bit on the long side. That's still my personal favorite album from Ja, because I think that shows his most, I wouldn't say aggression, but more of the street element.
Yeah.
What's funny though, when I was re-listening to it, especially on Monday, is that a lot of the beats, and this goes back to what I was talking about with Irv Gotti doing a lot of the X's first album. A lot of those beats sounded like they were for X. Re-listening to a lot of this stuff, even to the point where I'm listening to some of Ja's flow structure on it. I'm like, yo, this could have been, because remember when X second album came out, that was when Swiss took more control. At that point in time. So when I'm re-listening to Vinny Vici, I'm like, had Irv still stayed in that circle more or less, this sounded like these were beats that were designed for X. But once Murda I-N-C started popping off, I'm gonna get these to Ja now, and everything else. And if you listen to it again, I think you'll start seeing some of that correlation with it, But as far as, and I know Kelly was mentioned earlier, like the classics, where did he stack up, from other labels? I mean, I think this was, and if Vinny Vici's 1A, I would put like Rule, 336 tier B right underneath. But it's not Dark as Hell's Hot. I don't think he has none of that in the catalog. You don't have a reasonable doubt.
Like, nope.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. But he had bangers though throughout. But I don't think he definitely doesn't have that true bona fide classic though.
Not even close. It's not even close.
How dare you?
You think Ja Rule has a classic album?
Nah, it's like a 4.5. It's not a 5.
Okay.
Honestly, that Vinny Vici, I thought the source got it right when they gave it the 3.5 out of 5. It was a little on the long. I liked it enough to say I want to hear more from him. Right. To kind of add on to the beats thing you were saying, I felt like with that album, it was the intro to him, but he needed to separate himself from the DMX sound because those beats could have worked for DMX. They both have rugged voices. He can't help the voice he has. But I think that album introduced you to Ja Rule, but it was like it didn't give him an identity. So that enough of an identity, but it showed you early on, like you said, he could do the emotional stuff, he could do the introspective stuff, and he could do the street stuff. He has the song for his daughter with the song with Ronald Isley, Daddy's Little Baby. I keep forgetting, they actually did a video for that too, but that wasn't a big single. And like I said before, album's a little long. It's probably my second favorite Ja Rule album, but it was just kind of like he was unpolished there, for me.
I'll let Kel go, but to second what Zoe said, we had just lost Tupac, and we had and DMX was like out of here, you know what I mean? So he kind of was underneath that rock, and being able to. I saw him live at Powerhouse in '99. I was in 9th grade, maybe, and I mean, I don't know. I just had. I think when you see somebody live, you're just a little more privy to them,
Yeah.
And his performance was just out of this world. I'm like, he was just like a jumping beat, like just everywhere. So I immediately gravitated to that first album, and I had a nice foot in the underground. I had a nice foot in the commercial, and I had a nice foot in street music. So I was able to appreciate that in real time.
The hype at this point, the hype behind Ja Rule was so big that he could not be denied, right? Like he had the machine. How do you get like Jay-Z and DMX like on your stuff? Like he was exactly. Like the machine behind him was to the point where it didn't really matter what he put out. He was going to be felt because he had everything. He had it. Everything was lined up perfectly for him. So whether he was hot or not, people were going to feel him. He was all things to everybody. When he first came out, he was compared to Tupac, DMX, and Jay-Z. Like, how are you a mix between all of these people? But really, he's not a mix between any of those people, right? Yeah. He's his own thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but at this point, it's really exciting. Ja Rule was really exciting because his potential was crazy.
The potential.
Listening back to it, he doesn't really have the bars, right, of a Jay-Z. He doesn't really have the energy of a DMX. A live show, yeah, he got energy, but X was like, I mean, come on, it was
X
like,
is just a ball of
X
So
was also on cocaine, but
yes, but it worked.
ouch.
Listen,
I love X, but
cocaine.
X was peeing, bro. He was high.
Listen, if you gotta sniff cocaine to make a classic album, that's what you gotta do.
Oh, that's
Jesus
what.
Christ.
Oh, so that's
What
all
you
I'm
gotta
missing.
Okay.
Where's the coke? All right. So yeah, he was he didn't live up to his potential. But at this point, limitless. He has limitless potential. He could be anything.
You don't think he lived up to his
things.
potential off that album
No.
or his?
No. I mean, off that album, oh, man.
No, I would say I would agree with you in terms of the debut.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I was just curious where you were placing that.
Yeah,
statement.
I was
Okay.
placing it both, like on this album, and like it's hard because he was super successful. Like he was the guy, right? But at the same time, he wasn't. Like, because he's nobody now. Right? Like he's a joke. He's worse than nobody. He's a joke now. Right? And why? Why is that? Are we going to figure that out right now? Because I would love to.
Well, let's go in like order here, right? Like
yeah. So let's roll into like what do you guys think is Ja's best work? So, you know, we covered Ground Zero, we covered Introduction into the Game. So now, you know, let's get into his albums. 336 drops in 2000. Pain is Love drops in 2001. I mean, he's dropping like, 2002, Last Temptation. He's going back to back now.
He went 99 to 04.
Yeah,
like
03.
just-
I mean,
Yeah,
he put
for 99 to 04,
Listen,
he had album of the
a
year.
nice run. He had a great run.
So to you guys, what do you think is his best body of work, album-wise, or if you want to go year-wise?
I think you have to look at it for Rule 336 on the point where, and I think Ray mentioned it, and I kind of resonate as I was re-listening to some of the albums. That album kind of set him apart from the whole X comparisons and everything else, because now he had an identity.
Yeah.
You know, as far as what he wanted to do, and it's funny because when I was re-listening to the album, I didn't initially like it at first, and I think more or less when we were first coming in, because I remember the first thing came out, I'm like, yo, what is this? He's singing on hooks, he's like, is he trying to do R&B now? And you know, at that age, I'm like, this is not the Ja Rule I was accustomed to from the first album, because it almost seemed like a 180. But now re-listening to it as older, it still had the elements from the first album, but it's now more. Now we're looking at it more of a refined product. You know, at this point, so all the rough edges he might have had on the first album, say, oh, maybe he should have did this differently. Everything, it was kind of like corrected. A lot of that could be, definitely could have been with Irv. As far as coaching, okay, here's what we need to do this, here, how to do the bridge. And now you start seeing him transitioning to that megastar, at that point. So I think that was probably his most balanced album, his most most cohesive album, if we're looking in that matter there. But afterwards, that's when I would say it kind of got kind of shaky. But to me, that was probably his most, if I had somebody say, hey, what's Ja Rule about? That's probably the first album I probably, have them listen to prior to Veni Vidi Vici, because it gave you that perfect balance of everything.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, Rule 336, I say hands down is his best album. The first album was like 77 minutes. Remember back then they used to just load up CDs, and they brought this album is like just a shade under 60 minutes. They made some structural changes. They gave him a sound that is him, that really feels like him. He hit all the pressure points of the pop, the streets, the emotional, and there's no filler on that album, minus the Chris Black skit, but you got to represent for your homie that's locked up. He's got like the obligatory phone call prison thing, which he had on the first album too. Yeah. But that album just never stops. He hit on everything. And I think that is hands down his best album.
What about you, Shanti?
I liked his third album. His third album for me.
Well, Pain is Love, right?
Yeah, he had a bunch of singles on that joint, man.
Yeah, Always on Time, Living It Up.
Yeah,
Down Ass Bitch.
all the singles. Like, so for me, I think that's like
he was on Drake time on Pain.
Yeah, he was on exactly. That one for me was the one that stood out, because that was the one I was like, oh, this is on it. This is on it. This is on it. Yeah. I like that because I I never listened to Ja Rule for the bars. It was always for the singles, and that album had the most singles on it. I believe it had the most singles on it. So
Yeah,
he knew how to make records. Like you said, he
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah,
bars.
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of artists that don't have bars, but they got, and I agree with you guys. Irv Gotti's probably a big key part of it.
Mhm.
The final product. How can I present? Like Irv Gotti knows that what Ja Rule is and isn't. All right, so how do we give you this final product? Like you said, he had all those singles, and I think he had album cuts on that. He had Never Again, the episode title, Dial M for Murder's on there. You know what I'm saying? He had the Tupac Pain, rendition. You know, there's a lot on there.
Well, yeah. To me, his best work is 336. That's, I think, I agree with the fellas. That's like the center of like his nucleus. I mean, my personal favorite is that first album.
Right.
But like he never sounded like that again, honestly.
Nah, that's the only album like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ashanti becomes a huge star after the first album. They're a super duper, company.
Hold on, are they the best duo, like male, like rapper and R&B, like consistent duo, Ja Rule and Ashanti?
I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but I already want to say no.
Really?
But they had.
I don't know, because
they missed a big opportunity in doing an album together.
Oh, they should have. They definitely should have.
But when you think about it, where's J-Lo without Rule and Ashanti though? As far as their influence, the songwriting, Unreal Remix, and everything else. J-Lo, I don't think, granted, she's a mega star now. I don't think she becomes who she is without them too.
Yeah, Ashanti wrote those. Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Ja was getting busy with everybody. I mean, Little Mo.
That's true.
Like
Mary J. Blige.
Like he was spreading it around.
Yeah.
Where like that opportunity missed its purpose because Ashanti was only getting maybe say 4 singles out of possible 10, but he's just giving it all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the king of duets at that point.
In that moment, yeah, he was the go-to guy. Like you wanted the hook. He did Fat Joe, What's Love?
Yeah, What's Love?
Yeah. He was
that
the
was
go-to.
such a banger. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, got to do with it.
Oh, yeah, bangers. Yeah, bangers. He definitely had bangers.
Angie Martinez. Well, all right. So I guess we're kind of reaching halftime here, and to bring up Kel's, hater energy.
Ooh, this is truth energy.
I don't think it's hater. I kind of agree now.
Thank you. See that? So this is my guy right here. Look at his face. Look at his face.
It's a glasses thing, huh?
That's what it is. That's what it is. The visually impaired brothers coming together.
So it's a fellow Queens native by the name of Curtis Jackson that Ja Rule and Murda I-N-C up into in the early 2000s. And I think this is a big, big, big cloud over his legacy. And I think has a lot to do with Kel's statement earlier in the show about like, why is Ja considered a joke to certain masses in our community. So let's just kind of like talk about the elephant in the room. Ja Rule 50 Beef was like front page news. You know what I mean?
Farrakhan got involved.
Oh man.
What do you guys like? Reactions looking back and the here and now.
Man, they had people need to understand too. Like their stuff started in the streets. These guys hated each other before they both had an album out. You know what I mean? And I think it goes back to the ties with Preem, right? And I mean, Ja was having a nice run, but between the emergence of 50 wasn't just some new guy on the block that emerged. He had the biggest debut ever since Snoop. So now that's who you got beef with. And then the feds are raiding you. So like you guys are Murda I-N-C kind of has a little bit of a handicap on them. And, there was also the cultural shift. People were apparently getting tired of the rapping and singing.
That's what it was.
Even Nas said R&B artists started fucking up the game horribly, even though he was almost going to sign to them, which was like a funny bar. But, I think there was a couple things going on there. And I think, what's it called? And for anybody that's younger, people don't realize like Ja has actually put pause on 50 Cent. Murda I-N-C has actually put pause on 50 Cent. it's been reported. Yeah, there was a time where he got beat with a bat and another time where he got stabbed. So these guys hate each other.
Blackballed, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Irv was actually trying to brag about it recently, right? Wasn't he trying?
No, you know.
That they were trying to stop him from getting a deal. That's how much these guys hate each other. So all that energy came and just bit them in the ass because look what 50 Cent became.
I'll piggyback off that. At the time, I mean, 50 Cent's debut, I was all totally on that album. You know, that album was, you know, straight just blaze.
Yeah, incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that Murda I-N-C just handled it poorly. I think that they were the overdogs. 50 was the underdog, and I think that they just kind of fell for the bait.
Yeah, they should have ignored him.
They should have just ignored him, man.
Yeah.
You know, like it got unprofessional, it got street for no reason. And I think the one Achilles heel with Irv Gotti is just like, yo, man, like, you're an executive. You know what I mean? You're not a street guy. You know, like separate that. Like it's street BS. You know, and it bit him in the ass.
You know what? Go ahead, Rance.
No, I'm gonna say, and it's funny because 50 is like the original hip hop troll. You know, so he knew what buttons. You know, he knew what buttons to push.
You can figure
how
out
to rob
his ability.
So he knew what button to push to the point where he has Ja Rule release that "What Blood in My Eye" album, which initially supposed to be a mixtape, becomes an album, and he was trying to rechannel his Vinny Bad Beach, and this was around the time when he was trying to get, I guess, in his Tupac persona, where he had like, you know, all Tupac affiliate hate. I think Bill Hussein is on like 3 or 4 tracks on that album.
Yeah.
You know, where
dissing
now
50,
a whole album of dissing. You know, nobody wants it. People wanted more, you know, of your singing and, you know, whatever you duets at this point. Not Vinny Vici Ja or the poor man's version of it, because he could never really get back into that structure. So it's almost like you fed into that, and it helped 50. You know, because I remember when Wankster came out, you know, I Smell Pussy came out, like, it didn't matter what job put out at that point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? People were going like, I'm going with that guy over there. And if you also look at it during that time frame, and I think we're going to kind of touch on it in a few moments as well, he I guess with that beef with 50 also burned bridges with some of the other prominent New York rappers at that time, where granted they might have his back or had his, you know, might have his support maybe at the beginning of the beef, but by then it's almost looking like, yo, man, you know, you're out of pocket. We're going to either sit on the side, or, you know, if you want to come at us, we're going to, you know, come at after you, you know what I mean? And that momentum in between that and the Fed case was just a major buzzkill, you know, to Murda as a whole.
Yeah. I think every few years, there's a shift in the sound of music and like how people want to be perceived, you know, like there's trends, right? I think 50 hit at the right time with a quality product, right? So when people were getting like sick of Ja Rule, because he was everywhere, like he was overexposed, right? It's enough. Everybody was like, all right, this is enough. And when 50 came out with Wankster, and listen, he came out swinging. It's not like he came out, dropped something before Wankster. Like he just dropped Wankster. It had Ja Rule all in the video. It was blatant disrespect, and everybody loved it. Like, so there was nothing.
Doll, right?
What's that?
He had the Ja Rule doll or something.
He had the Ja Rule doll.
Stop playing with these Wanksters.
Stop playing with this. It was crazy. At that point, it was already over. You can't recover from that. But then after that, 50 kept coming with hit singles about this man. Like, there was nothing Ja Rule could do about it. It didn't matter what he do. His best bet was to ignore him and just try to keep putting out R&B records, because he was great at putting out R&B records. There was nothing he could do about it. It was just bad timing, great timing for 50, bad luck for Ja, but Ja had an incredible run. He had 3, 4 albums where he was on top?
Yeah, he had those first 4 albums were platinum or better. And like what you
Quadruple,
said with 50, what 50 did to the game was what X did. When everybody was sick of like the shiny suit era, DMX came and just deaded that shit. And 50 did that with the singing. Ja Rule was going back to back triple platinum.
Yeah. Crazy.
And then 50 arrives and he killed your sales. And you brought up a good point in what you guys were saying, the Blood in My Eye. It's like the year that 50 dropped, you dropped Blood in My Eye. That was the year you needed to call in every favor of every hot artist
Yeah.
and make the biggest album of your career to try and stay relevant instead of doing the mixtape. You know what's funny? I don't even mind that album, but dude, like that wasn't it. Like that wasn't his hardest swing. You know what I'm saying?
It was an ego thing though. Like
and
you can't let
desperate.
somebody go. Yeah, it came off desperate. Is it like you can't let somebody come up to you and you know, basically spit in your eye and, you know, turn the other cheek.
Spit blood in his eye.
that's the hip hop culture, right? Like that's black culture. Like everything is super macho, right? And like you can't just you know, that's everything. I'm the greatest, I'm the best, and I'm the toughest, right? So if Ja Rule had turned the other cheek, like would he still be relevant? Could he just be an R&B star right now? Maybe not right now. It's a long time. People usually don't have that long careers. My question is, how long is the average artist career, right? And did Ja Rule just exceed that, right? Because the Jay-Z's are rare, right? DMX's career wasn't as long as Ja Rule's career, was it?
Now his first three were like massive, and then that's when after that is when his stumbling kind of began.
I think X is a little bit longer than Ja's, but I think Ja just was like went out the gate so fast.
Yeah. I think the difference because remember he came out album year after year after year. Yeah. When we look at other artists, especially more like in the 90s, it's almost like you might have an album maybe 2-3 years later, you had your other album, it kind of stretched a little bit longer. It was like boom, 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 boom. So it went from like extreme high to extreme low.
Right.
You know?
What would be interesting is if I had a time machine to go back and get like the temperature of the culture. And were people getting tired of Ja Rule before 50 came out and 50 just put the nail in the coffin? Because it seemed sudden at the time, but maybe if we go back, we could be like, oh, well, he was kind of like people were kind of getting tired of this already. But I don't know.
It depends on where the charts were too. Like if you, I think one way we could kind of do it is if you look at, you know, the years where the charts of his hits and then the features, was his stuff starting? Was he becoming less in demand? Was he not on the charts as much? Because the media can spin it just to feed the beef. 50's here, you're done. Right. But what if it is a situation where we look at the charts and it's like, yo, he was still in demand, like, and people weren't, and you know what I mean? Or just, there's different ways. But there was an audience that was getting tired of it though.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely oversaturation. I think what it really came down to is that the fire was already there. People were like, I'm kind of getting tired of the sound, and 50 was able to ignite it. Yeah, you know, he was the right man, right, you know, right time, right opportunity to set it off. Where then it was just a domino effect that could not be stopped at that point.
Yeah, and let's not forget exactly. Let's not forget that 50 had a machine behind him too.
A bigger machine than Irv Gotti.
A bigger machine. Like, so I can't give all the credit to 50, even though his music, that album, is still incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we slide into the third segment, I do think it's fair to say that Murda Inc. as a label at this point, we're kind of doing, you know, things that haven't been done. You know what I mean? I think it's fair to say in 02, 01, 03, they had surpassed like Death Row, Bad Boy, Rockefeller. I mean, Rockefeller was like with them, you know what I mean? Rough Riders. As far as the diversity of chart-topping songs. So they kind of were, you know, they were the ones that people were looking at. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting success in rap and you're getting success in R&B. Now they're multi-charting. You know, now you're on pop. Like who was on pop charts? Like for real. Like Jay had.
I think Bad Boy did it better. I think Bad Boy did it better. Charts. Yeah, Bad Boy because they were before. They didn't run at the same time, but Bad Boy had. Well, remember pop as in. They brought the pop charts to them. They didn't chase the pop charts, right? Like, so it was the More Money, More Problems.
It was
Bad Boy was behind like Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, you know.
Right. Different aesthetic.
And Puff had tons of artists, though,
112, right? Faith Evans, Danity
Kane,
Black
like
Danity
Puff
had the white girls.
All right. So where does Ja Rule fit, you know, in the pantheon of like just hip hop, royalty, legends, people that just been in the game, man? Like, where does he fit for you guys?
Let me say real quick, I don't think you could be a legendary hip hop artist without a classic album. So, but you know, I just wanted to say that. So just, you know.
I don't think
does Ja Rule have a
no.
Does Ja Rule have a classic album?
No.
I say no.
No.
Vinny Ray Beach, I would say it was like a 4. You can make an argument for a Rule 3, 3, 6, maybe 4. I wouldn't consider that a classic though.
He doesn't have that. It's dark and hell is hot.
No,
like
I
he
think
doesn't
like
have
it's not
that
even
get
close.
rich.
I think that classic album thing is like Achilles heel in the hip hop culture, yo. Like it's something that I get it. Like that was a litmus test for how we view music. But there's rock artists, there's jazz artists, you know, let's take it back to like the 60s and 70s where you putting out just singles, 45s, you know what I mean? Where there's 4 records. And that's my contribution this year to the world of music. You know what I mean? I think that cripples hip hop, that whole classic debate, yo.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean? I hate that. You know, he's a legend to me. You know what I'm saying? Without
yeah.
Because Drake, I'm sorry, my bad.
Is he?
Oh, Red Room.
Did the COVID get him?
Did G Unit just show up? Did G Unit just show up?
Undertaker, man. Undertaker here.
But no, but Chris, before I let you finish, but like Drake is gonna be a legend. I don't think he got a classic album. So I'm gonna use that right against you, bro.
I agree. Yeah.
No, Drake does not have a classic. Come on.
That's a fair point.
And he'll be viewed as a legend. Yeah.
Drake got more hit singles than Ja Rule though.
But is there a Drake without Ja though? Who had the blueprint? And that was the argument I would make. Like Ja doesn't have a classic album, but Ja had a blueprint that became, especially in today's day and age, the more sing-song rap. We had other groups doing it prior, but he was the one that became the first true, to me, megastar with that blueprint, though.
Yeah, you know, before streets and singing, yeah.
You know, I don't. Who else? Probably. I mean, you could say Bone Thugs to a certain degree, but not on a same stretch run that Ja was doing, especially on a more
and they weren't doing love
side.
Songs. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
On the ladies side. Bone Thugs was singing about how they want to murder you.
They're singing about Uncle Charles, man. Rest in peace.
No, I mean they had more murder sing rapping.
Yeah, man.
I think Ja was the first one on the lady side tip doing that sing rap that became a blueprint of success, where he, you know, between him and Irv overdid it so quickly, you know. And then, because I don't think you have a Drake without Ja in that respect. I don't think Drake, there's no way possible at that point, based off that blueprint. Who was doing what Ja was doing prior that was multi-successful on a sales perspective? Nobody was.
Nobody.
Point. But I mean, listen, a pioneer and a legend are two different things. Ja Rule was definitely a pioneer. Is he a legend? I have none of his songs on any of my playlists. I cannot say he's a legend.
And Renz, I think this was like that weird question in the group where they were like the legend. When you look up the definition, like the Webster's the definition of a legend, one of the attributes is somebody who's well known, which is, and I have to check myself on this. And if that's the case, I actually don't like that word because a lot of people could be well known. And now to me, that word, now it's like, do we try to use another word? You know what I mean?
Well,
I want to fact check
you
myself
know what I mean?
a little bit, you know, but I think that was one of those where I'm like, yo, like a lot of people are well. Skilo's was well known. Did that make him a legend?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
right.
Like, but anyways, yeah.
That's a fair assessment. So
hold on. Do you think he's a legend?
I already said that. Yeah.
You said, oh man, we might have to reassess our friendship. Man.
I would lean more yes than no. I would lean more yes than no.
I mean, I think the tiers though.
Yes.
Like anything.
Yeah, there's
like,
tiers.
You know,
There's tiers.
is he a tier 1 legend? No. Tier 2 or 3? I would say so. You know, but you know, if we're talking about tier 1, he's not a tier 1 legend. But like I said, as what he brought to the table, the sound, everything, you know, for better or worse, you know, I think you can't deny, you know, what he brought to the game and how he changed the game.
Here's how I'll judge it, and this is kind of flowing into our next topic, where I'm going to ask y'all, was he placed in the correct era? But his peers were basically, because remember, we talked about DMX, we talked about Jay. They were the bigger brother, you know? So let's just say, those were his peers by default, in a sense. He kept up with them and beat them at certain aspects. His peers I'm gonna run them down. Memphis Bleak, Beanie Siegel, The Locks, Cameron, Silk the Shocker. I'm just trying to give a the whole backdrop. Fabulous. All those guys, all those artists,
Maybe
and
Ludacris too, right? Like Ludacris
yeah,
came
yeah,
out around the same
Ludacris came
time.
out a year later. Yeah,
you could
I'll
throw
put him in
Luda
there.
and like Nelly a year later.
Nelly.
Most of those guys, without the exception of Luda and Nelly,
And Nelly was huge.
he dominated. He wiped the floor with his peers.
He did.
I'm sorry.
That's true. That's true. That's
Like you said,
good
with
point.
the exception of Luda and Nelly, yeah, everybody else you said played second fiddle to Ja Rule was the flagship artist on his
that's
label.
what I'm saying.
Those guys were like the second.
They were the second guy.
You know
Ja
what I
Rule's
mean?
not the second guy.
He was
the first guy.
competing with the big dog. Like he was
Yeah.
Def Jam at one point in time had a Prime X, J, and Ja Rule in terms of mainstream sales. You got all of them doing multi-million sales each time. Yeah, definitely keep up. Yeah.
So go ahead, Brand.
No, I will say, and to me, the only difference between Ja and Nelly was that Ja started real hard and then tried to train. Nelly already kind of had that look, already had kind of the sing rap on there. So to me, the expectation, like, oh, he went ultra street to this, wasn't there with Nelly. Where to me, Nelly had more sustainability, and Nelly didn't have all the beats neither. Nelly just came in just being Nelly.
Yeah,
Ultimately at the end of the day, but they both had similar blueprints where Ja kind of fizzled, Nelly was still able to sustain it, maybe a few more years longer. At that point.
Yeah. But how soon after Ja Rule came out did Nelly come out?
Nelly came out a year later.
A year, I would say, yeah. Because Ja was like June '99, and Nelly was like later in 2000.
Yeah. I can't respect
and Nelly's
Ja's
debut is
anyway.
Diamond. Is a Diamond album.
Yeah, Nelly was singing and rapping.
Yeah,
he was doing the same thing Ja was doing, and Nelly might have done it better.
I think Nelly.
You can do that.
Nelly, yeah, I would. I think with Ja Rule though, it's like even though he like upped the singing, he did and kept the street stuff on the album. He definitely kept it. I think Nelly went ahead and made a country song at one point, or he had a song with Tim McGraw. It's called Over. So I feel like Nelly was a little bit more on the poppier side. And then he just, I would say Ja Rule was a little bit more rugged than Nelly.
Well, even on the poppy stuff, he said, "I'll come up with the street sweeper, man." Like,
Jimmy,
That's interesting. Nelly and Ja Rule. Who do you think is better?
As far as career perspective, or
no, as far as just the overall career perspective.
I tend to reach. Oh, if you're talking about metrics, I think Nelly wipes the floor with.
Yeah, I mean, if we do metrics, Nelly by landslide,
So is Nelly a legend?
Nelly's probably a legend. Yeah, Nelly's probably a legend.
I was about to catch all y'all. I wish you would have said no.
He was about to say, "Andale,
yeah." You got glasses.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay,
you're right.
All right, fellas. So was Ja Rule placed in the right era? And what could have been?
He's a tweener. Like you said, like John X. But it's almost similar to like how DMX early 90s, but he fit more in the mid 90s rap catalyst. To me, Ja run us, same period, but he felt more like 2000s just because how the sound was evolving at that point. And in some ways, when you really think about it, like had Ja came out, let's say 10 years after the fact, maybe around a time of Drake or Kid, he might have had a better fit in there because that became the more the norm.
Yeah.
At that point, it's almost similar to like MC Hammer. Everybody like, oh, you doing this? We hate you. Blah blah. We're gonna go ultra gangster rap. It's kind of like similar in the sense where it's like, oh, you doing that same stuff? They ain't flashy. B. We want to go take it back to here. And while he was a pioneer, he also died on that cross because of being on that pioneer. Because 50 saw his formula. Only thing 50 did, he kept a little bit more gangster. And he didn't overdo
except when he did
but
Candy
stole
Shop.
Stole his whole style.
Candy Shop.
He did exactly what Ja Rule did.
Everything that people were mad about, 50 took.
Yeah.
But here we come to. History is written by the victors.
That's what it is.
So when you look, and here's my point. So, and we talk about the Murda Inc. We talk about the Rough Riders, Rock, everything else. All those labels, all those camps. So actually, okay, that's your flagship artist. within X, you still had the Locks. You had their solos within the Locks. You still had Eve and Dragon to a certain extent. Rockefeller, Oz, you had Beans, you had Meth, you had Dipset. You know what I mean? Outside of Murder Inc., there's no artist on Murder Inc. outside of Ja. Well, Ashanti.
John
that's
Ashanti,
R&B.
yeah, that's it.
Lloyd had a little.
But no,
Lloyd had a little
but here's the
run.
thing. Let's talk about on a pure hip hop perspective.
Yeah.
Ja is the only rapper on that label that had albums. All Ty Murder, all the
Black
other guys,
Child,
they're
none
on
of
their
them.
he's
Jody
on Ja's
Mack.
albums.
Yeah.
Charlie Baltimore, where's Charlie Baltimore's Murder Inc. album? Where's Vita's Murder Inc. album?
Yeah.
So that's to
Vita
me.
had an
That's
album.
what.
It wasn't good.
No, she never. She
Not
She didn't have an album?
she just had that single on the.
Yeah.
Oh,
They made their appearances on those Murder Inc. compilations.
Yeah,
Yeah, that single on that Murdering compilation was crazy.
Vita,
Yeah.
Oh, that
Vita,
was
or
such
the
a
We
banger.
Murderers, baby. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang
so
it.
that's my
Yeah.
thing. Like, as a squad, you know, I think Murder Inc. You can't put Murder Inc. in those same categories just because Ja was the only rapper that actually came out. If you're talking about the R&B perspective, then you can put that argument there. But as far as rap perspective, they didn't come close to a Rough Riders, not close to a Rock, not close to Dipset, none of those labels because it was pretty much just Ja. You know, when we talk about you're talking about how they hit all these other metrics, pop, R&B and stuff, that was Ja as an artist. That wasn't Murder Inc. as a camp or a squad. That was pretty much just Ja. And we're talking about a solo, you can't question Ja's placement. But as far as like a label, as far as what was doing, I think they kind of dropped the ball on the other acts. Where maybe they could have still had a sustainability even after Ja fell off. We still got Vita here, we still got Charlie Baltimore or whatever. Like they were pretty much done with Ja.
Nobody else to really kind of like, all right, let's.
Yeah, John Ashanti were the only
Yeah.
the 35 million. Irv said that Murder Inc. in terms of in-house albums between Ja and Ashanti, they're the only, and Lloyd, they've done like 35 million worldwide, something like that. And Brandon, I'll quickly answer your question. For me, I think Ja, because I feel he found his sound at the right time, I feel he was right where he needed to be. Because if he comes out later, he doesn't come off as a pioneer. He comes off as doing what Drake's doing or doing what this one's doing. And I think Ja was, he had to bear some of the hits for it, but I think he hit his stride when he needed to be. They just could have did a better job at, when 50 arrived.
Yeah. I think the question, Brandon, that you asked is an incredible question, because if Ja Rule came out right now, there's no penalty for singing at all. Like, it's expected. That's what you're supposed to do, right? All that. But the problem is right now, he would not be like unique. He wouldn't be good.
He wouldn't stand out.
Yeah, he wouldn't stand out at all. He'd just be another dude singing. And
The majority of the South.
Exactly. So I think he, while he was ahead of his time, he couldn't have been anything but of his time, because now
he was auto-tune without auto-tune.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
so
essentially,
I think he was in the right era, but it would be interesting to see a Ja Rule in this era. But everybody's Ja Rule in this era, so
Yeah,
he should get more props. Yeah.
No, I disagree. Nelly was better than him in his era.
I reach more for Josh than Nelly.
But I agree that his place is perfect. Actually, it's like an imperfect perfect.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Right.
He was able to figure out I'm not as smooth as Jay-Z. I'm not as hard as DMX. Nobody's catering to the women here.
Yeah.
Even Biggie knew how to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He slid in that pocket.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Absolutely. So we footnoted it earlier in the show, but around 1998, 1999, Irv was kind of playing around with, getting DMX and Jay-Z to join Ja in an actual group. They had a few singles. They were on that Source XXL covered, dual. Murda Inc. was it was just confusing to me because Murda Inc. is your label, but there's a Murda Inc.
Then it's the group name. It's which one is it, Irv? Come on.
But what do you guys thoughts on the super group that never formed, with Ja, J, and X?
Well, I'm glad it didn't, to be honest. I think when I listen to, I'm grateful for the 90s stuff, that if it's on, what they gave us. But even when I listen to all of those recently, and I know that they're street classics and whatnot, it's kind of like the same effect as Slaughterhouse, where I hear three individual personalities. I never felt like their chemistry was ever reached. And it does. And then when you get the backstory, Jay and X didn't like each other. So you got that. Even Irv Gotti's talking about how he had to do, maybe X's verse, and then on another day get Jay-Z in the studio at another time and all that. And again, I appreciate the songs they had, but you see the articles about, what could have been or whatever. I think even if that album had come out, it at most would have just been good. At most. I don't hear a chemistry with them like you hear with a trio in the Locks, where they sound like they know each other. They sound like friends. Me personally, I just don't hear it. And I think a lot of the sound of those beats complemented DMX more than Ja Rule or Jay-Z. That's just my take. So I would have listened, obviously, if it came out, but I don't think it would have done what people would like for it to have been.
I'll put it simple. Ja wouldn't have a career if Murder Inc. Supergroup popped off, just because X and J were already two established artists. So whether that album did good or not, they're good. They can go still branch off and do whatever. Ja was still on the mainstream level, a newcomer.
Yeah.
Ja would not have fared well.
He was Spliff Star.
Damn. But yeah. So I mean, I don't think you have Ja Rule as we know him if Murder Inc. popped off. So it was a blessing in disguise. And he even kind of spoke on it as well. Because remember, the funny part is that Irv Gotti just coined them as Murder Inc. So it wasn't even like they came together and said, hey, let's do this group. Irv Gotti on the back end saying, you know what, I got this super group called Murder Inc., Jay-Z, DMX, Ja Rule. And that was just through his, hey, I'm cool with all three of them. So they didn't even agree to be in the group. This was Irv Gotti trying to push it to the point where he said, hey, we might as well do it type deal. But outside of that, these are three solo artists, outside of maybe some common bonds, really did not have any type of real true connection or real true chemistry. So it's good that it really worked out, because Ja, like I said, would not have did anything, to me on the level that we're looking at now.
Yeah, I think that Ja Rule has no business being mentioned with the likes of DMX and Jay-Z.
I want to tweet this video to Ja, man.
No disrespect to Ja Rule and his family. All right, I'm sure they're great. They're good. He's a good guy. He did great things. He made singles. He made hit records. But here's the problem: Jay-Z. Ja Rule and come on, man. DMX, come on, man. DMX and Jay-Z could have dropped some shit I don't listen to. They're great. They're great artists. Ja Rule is not on that level. He's just not.
Okay. How do we get him out the video? Like delete him out.
You telling me Ja Rule is of the caliber of Jay-Z?
He proved a year later that he was.
No, caliber, not in sales, but in skill, no, not.
All right, in skill. Listen, he sold records, but you don't have to be talented to sell records.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying Ja Rule's not talented, but
no, me neither. But I'm saying he's not as talented as Jay-Z, and they're calling it a super group. Only two of those names are super.
Oh man, this is terrible.
B Gotti, did you want the project to happen?
I did. I agree with Zoe though. It would have hampered what Ja would have done later. But I would have liked to hear that, like a one-off, like, you know what I mean? And like they had to come back every year or something like that. But a nice little summer joint or wintertime Murder Inc. record, that would have been cool to hear, because I favored that Murderers record. Like I bought that when it came out. And
the one on which one? The one on Ja's album?
Yeah, the Murderers album.
Oh, the Murderers album. My bad.
Irv Gotti presents, the 2001.
The first compilation, yes.
Yeah, that was hard. The problem with that one was, though, it was like a bunch of people we didn't know. Like, Black Child, Tom Murder, and like a bunch of Murder Inc. cats. And I mean, they at the time it was listenable, but like I don't really listen to that now. But I feel like if that's J and X on those beats, it has a lot more lifespan. But I will say that it would have been a cool one-off, but
that was crazy.
Benefited from that album not happening.
Yeah.
So, Cal, I respect your opinion. But
you're so angry. Why are you so mad at me? What's going on? I thought we was brothers. Man.
Who takes the biggest L here? TVT Records. Irv Gotti brought Jay-Z, DMX, didn't sign him. You know what I'm saying? Like a bunch of other artists too. Apparently Irv Gotti said that they brought The Chronic somehow to TVT.
Jesus.
Nothing.
Irv Gotti was in everything. Man.
Yeah, dude. I think of everything we're dissecting here, I think the biggest L goes to the label that let Jay-Z, DMX, and all these other artists go.
And then let me ask you fellas a question real quick.
Yes,
now,
sir.
I mean, hearing all this stuff that Irv Gotti did, was it Ja Rule or was it just Irv Gotti?
That's a
knowing
partnership.
What he was doing.
I think Ja was the talent and Irv Gotti was the resources. He knew where to get people, where to place them. He was the business end of it. He was the marketing department. You know, he was the promotions, which I think is the same as marketing. But he was the business end. So Ja Rule, I felt, could focus on the art.
And I think it's a line that Lil Fame says, Lil Fame MOP. He says my reality check don't bounce. And I think Irv reality check was limitless in the beginning because he was able to say, yo, Jay, I need you here. You know, yeah, X, I need you here. And they would listen to him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And in reality, he didn't really have a lot. You know what I mean? It came. But I think that like that tutelage to resources really paid him dividends. And then when he actually found his company and was winning, that's a proud moment. Like you actually like, damn, like he actually deserves the success, man. You know, because he was able to kind of put these pawns and bishops and queens in the right direction.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And how many of them became household names? Yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm gonna let y'all wrap up. But real quick question. If 50 Cent had came out first with Murder Inc. and then Ja had came out after with Aftermath, do you think it would have been different? Do you think Ja Rule? Do you think they're interchangeable? Is what I'm saying.
I don't think
so. No. You think 50 had to come out when he came out? Ja Rule couldn't have done it to 50's career.
Well, Cal, 50 came out. I mean, he had an album with Sony. I actually like that project. I bought
the Power of the the Guess Who's Back? Or are you talking about? Because Power of the Dollar was shelved, right?
Yeah, no,
Power of the Dollar was shelved. It was Guess Who's Back was like the street album. Then he had like the Aftermath debut.
Yeah, so I love that joint, man. Right. I could bang that today, but I don't think. But it didn't go for a reason. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think that Ja with Aftermath. I don't think they could.
Yeah, and 50 Cent as a personality. Certain people just have certain. He's of a certain cloth, and I think true. It aligned with Eminem being a controversial guy, and Dre having been controversial with pretty much his gangster rap and NWA days, and it seemed like there was that common denominator there, and that's why 50 worked there. And I don't think I think Ja just wasn't enough of wasn't those things, you know.
Right. And when you look at Eminem and 50, I think the key factor was Dre because he knew how to work with those type of personalities, like Outkast or people who kind of pushed to the side as there's no way you can market these type. Who I don't know at that time who could have marketed Eminem out other than Dre to that level that M came. And you could say the same thing with 50, you know, in a sense. You know, Eminem had a hand in that as well, but where would 50 be without Dre? Where would Eminem be without Dre? I don't think there'll be nowhere near the success levels. You know, and I think he knew how to find that type of talent that people kind of just said, no way.
So wrapping this up, where's the love, man? You know, what do you guys think? What is the answer for the lack of like props and respect that Murda Inc. and Ja Rule receive, or the lack of thereof? And you know, like what's the correlation there?
Well, I think the correlation still with the 50 beef, because I think once that started, because you think about it, Murda Inc. was a hell of a machine, but it ain't a machine of Aftermath, you know, Shady, and then you had Gene, and then plus you had the likes of Busta Rhymes, likes of, you know, even the old Death Row guys, Corrupts, that who were all riding for 50 at that point, you know. And then remember, Ja wasn't in the best relationship at that point with DMX. You know, they kind of had a fallout during that time. Irv had that kind of fallout with Jay because of the Nas situation. You know, because he was Nas's man, but at the same time, you know, Irv and Jay went back farther. And even Irv to this day said, he said, one thing I regret was doing the Pledge remix only because of his deeper relationship with Jay versus Nas. And the whole Nas situation, I think, was more or less, hey, let's try to market this, because I don't think Nas would ever really sign with Murda Inc. I think it would have been more like a partnership, or more like, okay, we're kind of affiliated with each other. You know, we're going to do
Nas
this.
was lost, man. He was working.
Yeah. But that was just more like Nas just like, oh, I'm just gonna, well, maybe Nas did it on purpose though, because out of that J beef, But
it was good promo for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Bottom line, the situation, who would normally had Ja's back maybe during that 50 beef, turn on Ja. Where now he became then the butt of the jokes and everything else. Even though 50 took his formula,
He stole
what I mean?
his
It didn't
whole
matter.
style, dog.
Yeah.
And
So the whole style,
yeah.
and and it's a shame because I tell people, and some certain people hit me up on the DMs even before, like, oh, is this gonna be a podcast hitting on Ja, or I don't like Ja because he did sing rap. And like, Ja was more than just a sing rap. Like to try to take away from his contributions to the culture, to me, is whatever. Like, you can't deny what Ja brought to the table. He might not have the classic album, but the things he brought in, like he pioneered a style for a lot of dudes are using today, period.
That's true. That's true.
You can't take that away.
I'll let Rad Child swing off and Kel as well, but I'll say shortly, he, like, in the 90s and 2000s, it was so not commonplace for you to place R&B formula in rap records. And I do think that eventually he bit the brunt for that.
Yeah.
He made it work, but it also was like those fans, we were some of those fans that, like, we were like, hey, like, what's going on here with this music? Mm-hmm. And when it got so much in the R&B lane and pop lane, our ears and the culture, it just wasn't what we were used to. It wasn't what was being communicated to us as real, keeping it real, per se. And I do think that's the correlation where the love is lost in a sense. I do see his legacy kind of going upward, because nothing's over till it's over. And John and Shanti have been able to tour like consistently. I can't tell you in the last G Unit stuff, like not trying to make the 50 in them, but
no, it's true.
He don't even talk to none of them.
Kel, you said earlier like how some of the stuff didn't age well to you. That G Unit stuff, bro. I don't see that.
I like the first Murderers album better than the first G Unit album.
I can't listen.
Yeah, listen. We can talk about G Unit if you want to. Absolutely. Listen, Ja Rule had hit after hit after hit. He was the man. Like, it cannot be denied that he had massive appeal and massive hits. I think though he just oversaturated the market, and people just got tired of the sound. And then 50 came, and he didn't get to go away quietly like every other artist who fell out of style. 50 had to come in and make it a loud, disrespectful exit, and that's why people think of Ja Rule the way they think of him now. But it cannot be denied that he had massive hits, and yeah, man, and he definitely was a pioneer. He definitely was. So I could definitely give him that.
Y'all agree with that?
Yeah, and you never seen such an abrupt, like you just said, like that type of abrupt, like he put his foot on Murda I-N-C's neck and never let go, even when they were done.
He kept doing it.
Yeah, and he even said, like, he cited like the 48 laws of power, like about killing your enemy completely. Yeah. Like, he cited that, like, that's how much he hates them. 50 hates them, like, on Instagram. 50 literally posted and tagged Irv Gotti in it and said to him, oh, when's your father gonna die? Like, that's how much they hate each other.
That's crazy.
And I think with social media now, right, like, in the social media era, people only know Ja Rule besides the 50 Cent angle, which he still clowns him in the social media era because 50 Cent has a strong social media presence. Yeah. And then Ja Rule, the Fire Festival thing didn't help his brand.
Yeah, that didn't help it at all.
His L's are massive. Yeah. And then 50's always there to make it worse.
Right.
And it takes the focus off of the fact that he has good music there. Those embarrassments or those other moments completely just drown it out. And people act like Ja's soft. People forget that Ja's the same one who savagely went at Eminem's daughter when they were dissing each other. You know
That
what
was a
I'm
hard
saying?
diss. He spelled murder wrong,
went at
but it was a hard diss.
Yo, like job, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the people focused on the negativity, which as you know, draws media always. So
yeah. Well, to pin a bow on this, man, Kel, thank you again, man, for joining us, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me, man. It was an honor and a pleasure. It's about goddamn time. I'm sick of being disrespected and left out, and it has to stop.
We didn't want to give him the Charlie Baltimore treatment, right? He's Ashanti today. You get an album.
Yes, nice. I'm very excited.
Yo, when we do an X spotlight, you know what's on.
Now listen. I got nothing but good things to say about DMX. All right, put me in. I'm ready. I don't need to do no research. I got it all. I'm ready. We can go into it right now if y'all ready.
Overtime. Press that bonus. But nah, man. We try to keep it timely and again, thanks for everybody for checking us out. Facebook Live. You can check us out on Amazon Music and Spotify coming soon, man. Fellas, man, whatever y'all got.
Yeah, check us out elsewhere too. We'll be posting this on YouTube. Hit us up on our socials. Do you agree with what we said about Ja Rule? Do you not? Let us know. We want to hear it.
Oh yeah, we want all the smoke.
He who believeth in Ja.
Rule 336. All right, and on that note, Tres Leches out. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Peace.
Peace.